Oh yeah.
Hey, I heard
that sounded like a real microphone. Did you get it fixed?
No, it's just my voice, I think. I'm on my computer.
He has a microphone-y voice.
I'm just gonna use this to pretend that I have a good mic. I'm gonna figure this out afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I heard a rumor that there's a trial this week.
There might be.
What? No.
There is a little bit of a trial going on.
Wow, you're hot. Hold on. So, okay.
And just so everybody knows, Eric was talking about the mic, so that there's no taking that out of context, because someone will, Eric.
I don't know.
Someone
that's your
inevitably will.
Someone would never make clips and take them out of context, would they?
No, there's Law Nerd Clips never watches this channel and never, ever, ever takes anything out. And there's not any other YouTuber out there or wannabe YouTuber out there chasing clout who ever takes clips and puts it up for malicious purposes. Ever. That would never happen.
Ever.
Yeah, on that topic, YouTube is not so great about dealing with the copyright notices I file. They're really great about the ones filed against me. The ones I file, they ignore. For 3 weeks.
People try to use your content, you try to strike them?
Mm-hmm.
Eric, I happen to like your shirt a lot.
Oh, thank you.
So, Kurt, what is the deal that you're doing with your copyright issues, or what's going on? I think I know, but I'm not sure that I know.
No, there's a guy who reposted my content basically in full, and I filed a copyright notice with YouTube on the 30th, and it still is listed as pending inside the YouTube studio. So it's been 2 weeks, and it's still listed as in progress. So I was just making a point. I filed copyright notice 2 weeks later. YouTube hasn't done anything. I play 1 second of a song on my audio, and the thing is immediately struck. So just noting a little disparate treatment there from the YouTubes.
Well, strategically, why didn't you just claim the monetization on the reproduction?
It's not monetized.
Yeah, it's
really.
And how much?
I doubt it.
How much of the original did they use? A reposting of your entire stream?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
Mm.
No transformative value, commentary or otherwise.
Are you
transformed into being on another channel?
Whose friend are you again?
I am the friend of the truth, Kurt. I would like to know, was the person making fun or nitpicking throughout his?
I had a company that I want to say was either Indian or Asian that would put bumpers on what were just full virtual legality episodes, and they would have like a person intro them and extro them, and I was like, well, okay.
Well, no, but hold on a second.
Not enough.
Now that I say it out loud, though, Kurt, there might be a way to claim monetization even if it's not monetized, and then YouTube runs ads on it, and instead of.
That's true.
I think there might be a way to do that, because I mean, it is it's one of the questions when people repost clips or whatever. You can, if you want to do it.
That's an option, but being the copyright holder, I prefer that it not be up. So yeah.
I don't know. All I know is that more content just got created for that channel. I get some of the copy. I never have filed notice for personally.
But anyway, let's talk about some trials.
Yeah, let's go and talk about other things. I just realized that the name of this particular episode maybe was in slightly poor taste at the
Nate's
last
camera's
minute.
working. It's a miracle.
Hey, Nate.
Oh,
I thought Nate was just staying off camera. I thought
that was
he just
an
liked the
intentional
clandestine
move.
approach to the trial.
No, I think he has children. I think he has kids running around. He's like, okay, never mind. It's like, are they dressed? I don't know. Let me just shut off the camera. I don't have to worry then.
I didn't know how much you guys miss my beautiful face. I'm not.
Nate, I miss it so much.
Oh my god.
When Nate is only using the pulsating avatar, I put a picture of his face on my computer so that I'm never alone.
There you go.
Well, it's helpful that his avatar is his face. That helps me through the process.
We see Nate's so beautiful that one of the tricks for presentations when you're doing this, so you feel like you're talking to a person, is you put a picture up. So we put a picture of Nate next to our camera, so we're talking to Nate all the time.
Yeah,
so we all
exactly.
have pictures.
It helps.
Sounds good.
Of course.
So the trial that nobody's talking about, people have been using the term Johnny Deposition.
Ooh, I like that.
I hadn't. Well, I had seen that in the chat when they are showing video depositions, but I hadn't seen that like generally to describe the trial. But maybe it's possible.
After the marriage counseling, we should just start referring to them by different AH and JD names throughout the rest of the trial.
I mean, that's what they are in my notes throughout this trial.
Don't they have other code names too, like Richard something or another for
Wells? Yeah. No, there were real code names from the drug doctor. The marriage counselor wasn't really trying.
It was
it was AH and JD.
John something.
Whenever I hear AH, I don't think Amber.
Oh my God! Thank you, Georgina.
H-hole.
Coming in strong. Georgina is amazing.
Awesome.
Thank you, Georgina.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well,
so yeah, this trial has been
had those letters. Oh, I'm not trying to jump in.
Okay.
Take it away.
There's a Tug apparently doesn't use it because YouTube suppresses videos.
That's what he told me. He said that initially, at least, he was not using her name. He was calling him JD, and he calls her that certain Aquaman starlet. It's pretty funny because it's like that's so many words to fit in when you're like in the middle of a sentence. So like, JD and that certain Aquaman starlet are at it again, but like when you get into a more detailed sentence, that's just a lot to say. But he does it very well. He does it phenomenally well. But I think what he told me, I had him on my channel a few weeks ago, I think a couple weeks ago. He told me that initially he used that because anytime he put Amber Heard's name in the title or the description or in the content of the stream, he would notice that it just wouldn't get any traction. It wouldn't go anywhere. The YouTube algorithm would suppress it. But then as soon as he started calling her that certain Aquaman starlet, things started to get better. But he said in recent months, or maybe the past year or something, I think he said that it lightened up the algorithms traction on that.
Do any of you watch the Courtroom?
Yeah, sometimes.
He has to be the biggest user of every code word out there. I'm like, dude, do I need a Rosetta Courtroom to watch your show? Because it's like he's always saying certain World War II figure with the AHJD on the side of the really, really bad thing with the other bad, and he's doing it on the fly too. And I'm like, wow, man.
If the captions are anything to go by, Lydia, you could just use Mr. Death and Miss Heard, the full word,
or Miss Hurt. I love that Miss Hurt as well. Sometimes, depending on who it was. Yeah. So it's like Hurt and Death. I like this.
Call her Miss Johnny Cash.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, but yesterday I was calling her Darth Leia because of her attire with her Leia hair in the braids, and then everything else was like Darth Vader. She looked like she was trying to look like some warrior in all black, super severe, super structured, and in my opinion, not a great look for somebody who's not trying to look aggressive.
Yeah, I wasn't able to join it all, but I definitely wanted to jump in on that. She was dressed like somebody who could beat his ass.
Yes. And especially when like during the trial, she looks very austere and cold, and she's off in the corner. She's, whereas Johnny is in between two lawyers, she's off over by the wall next to one lawyer, but kind of off in the corner. And part of that can't be helped just because the defense sits on one side, the plaintiff sits on another. So, to a certain extent, that's just kind of where they are. But they could have placed another attorney on the other side of her to sort of make her look like she's part of a community rather than off on her own,
or protected, like they're huddling around her. She's supposed to be a victim, and she's really not doing a great job looking like a victim. And I think you talked about it. She doesn't have to, necessarily wear a frilly dress or something, but she could wear that same suit with a pastel color, right? Or something like that, and it would just take the whole tone down. And even her hair's not necessarily bad. It just looks really structured with that outfit.
Yeah. Well, her laughing, is my audio still good?
Yeah, we hear you.
Her smirking, seeming to smirk when her personal assistant was talking about having gotten spat in her face.
Yeah.
I don't know where the jury is sitting in respect of the parties and whether or not they can see that in real time. But so yeah, other than dress, demeanor during the testimony is not the best thus far. It's not emotionless.
She had the closest to a full-on eye roll during the marriage counseling testimony that I saw. She had a full-on head and eye roll. But no, I mean, she's all the way across the room. I mean, there's a lot to see from the jury before you get to Amber Heard.
So who wants to recap where it's at now? They've had, as far as I could tell, they've had 3 witnesses testify.
Well, let me just plug for just a second.
One witness tossed.
I am
personally.
Hang on. Well, let me first just do a little bit of a plug. Other than the fact that we are live streaming every single day of this trial on my channel, Monday through Thursday, because that's all the days that they're at trial. For the full 6 weeks, I'm also doing daily recaps. I just published day 3 recap. Got it out way later than I intended because I had all kinds of delays. It was like one on top of another. Plus, my mom insisted that I go to dinner with her and my dad. She pulled me. She says, "I was like, can I at least bring my notes so that I can like work on this script for this video?"
No,
She's like, "No."
no.
She's like, "Step away." But anyway, so yeah. So if you want to see the full recap, go to my channel and check those out for sure. But yeah, we're day 3 in. We've seen several witnesses. One of them got kicked out of the courtroom yesterday. That was the big drama-rama, which was awful. And I know, and it has been suggested that maybe it was one of my clips that witness saw. I don't know how anyone knows that, but other than there were pieces of information that did seem to line up based on other stuff that other people had previously independently told me at the beginning of the day. So what happened was one of my friends messaged me through Instagram and said, with a screenshot of one account that she follows called House in Habit. That account is an independent writer who goes to a lot of these high profile trials and does her own like reporting on it. And you can see through her stories, she has a really great way of crafting a story through videos, through snapshots, and and I don't know, it's very creative and very well done. But one of her snapshots that my friend happened to catch was one of the clips from our live stream of reacting to Isaac's testimony on day 2.
What's that channel name? The IG channel you're talking about?
House in Habit.
House in Habit.
She's got like over 600,000 subscribers.
And Habit or in Habit?
Followers. It's all one word. House in Habit.
Yeah.
In Habit. Okay.
Yeah.
Followed by you.
Yeah. So I followed them because I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But
where's the tweet in question that caused the problem?
It was in the stories that my clip showed up. So, and my friend like sent me a screenshot, or she had put it in her stories. Then I put that screenshot in mine. Anyway, this was right before we went live for the day, so nothing had happened. And I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, I love seeing when random pieces of my videos end up in far corners of the internet, right? Like during the Rittenhouse trial, of course, Viva tweeted out that video that went viral, that clip that went viral of us reacting to Gage Groskowitz. And then I had friends that were like, oh my gosh, you're on the front page of Reddit. You're on the main page of Reddit, and this is crazy. Anyhow, so it's fun to see that kind of thing. So I thought it was just kind of like that. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then after this all went down, after Gina Deuters got kicked out, somebody super chatted that she had seen that this witness had seen my clip on House in Habit and had somehow liked it or indicated that she had seen it. There was some sort of evidence of that. I don't know exactly how you can see the evidence of it, but I do know that my clip was on there. So it was interesting to see from 2 independent sort of sources pointing to my clip on that IG account. Well, but I don't know.
But now, for the context for people to understand, who was one thing first, the judge warned everybody who's a witness not to watch the trial. I presume I didn't see that part.
I'm sure.
I think that's probably in. That's a general rule for all witnesses, and before they come in, there's a long history of them having been on a witness list. So I imagine that there's some kind of a notice that they received saying don't watch anything, don't access any kind of trial testimony or anything about this trial, really.
Yeah, that's only okay for jurors to lie on forms like that. Oh, sorry, wrong case.
Well, no, but this is like, I don't know how you unless you specify it and highlight, as lawyers you do this to your witnesses, and that's why you exclude them from the room. But when it's being broadcast, Who was the witness, Alita? What was she testifying on? And what's going to be the impact of her testimony being struck?
So this was Gina Deuters, one of Johnny Depp's friends, and her husband is really his good friend. So I don't know if her husband is also planning to testify, but basically she had most of her stuff had been foundational stuff like, how long have you known him? When did you meet him? When did you meet Amber? She talked about, one incident when she was on the set or on one of the promotional tours at a dinner with a bunch of actors and producers where Johnny and Amber were there at the table, and Johnny was sort of slipping. He had a glass of champagne under his chair, and he was sort of like surreptitiously drinking from it. And then Amber got mad at him and sort of like told him off like a child. That was basically that incident. Then there was another piece that she said that she was at their wedding on Johnny's Island in the Bahamas, and she indicated that Amber and her friend Rocky had given the witness her first taste of MDMA, which is ecstasy. So that's an indication that she does drugs. She hands out drugs to other people as part of the party. So she was about to get into the details of the Australia incident from March 2015 when Johnny was filming Pirates of the Caribbean 5. Amber was there, staying for a period of time, just as part of the visiting on set. And there was a bad incident where TLDR, Johnny Depp ended up severing the tip of one of his fingers. Whether he did it himself or whether Amber did it to him is, of course, at issue. But anyhow, she was just starting to talk about the Australia incident, about her being in Australia in March 2015. She didn't give any kind of substance. And that was when we started to see in the courtroom we didn't notice in real time, of course. We only noticed this looking back at it. But looking back at it, you can see the attorneys on Amber Heard's side communicating with the people in the front row of the gallery. So like people that are part of the team, but maybe not attorneys. Anyway, they're all kind of texting with each other very frantically, passing notes. Amber's passing her phone to other attorneys. And then you see them object and ask the court if they can approach. The judge after a quick sidebar, the judge excuses the jury for 15 minutes, tells them we've got some administrative stuff to figure out real quick. And then she turns and asks her, have you seen any footage of this trial? Have you been watching anything? And she said, yeah, I've seen clips. And she's like, of the testimony? And she says, yeah. And so she's like, okay, you're gone. That's it. You're done.
Yeah, she's decisive.
You're excused. You're excused, and we are going to strike all of this witness's testimony. We're going to tell the jury to completely ignore all of it. Which, are they really going to ignore it? Who knows? Even if they try to follow those instructions, like there could still be an impression left behind from them. I don't know. Sorry, David, you were saying?
No, I didn't think her testimony was particularly determinate one way or the other, regardless. But who's on the bottom panel? Who's been watching it in real time?
Well, Hoag's been there quite a bit of it, and Kurt.
Yeah, I've been hanging out with Lita this week.
Yeah,
and Nate.
Yeah, everybody's kind of popped in at least once or twice, right? So.
Yeah, so we all watched it. Although, yeah, I missed all of the drama yesterday. I got only video depositions. I had to go do other law during that particular period of time. It was so short. I was only gone for a couple hours. Came back, and we were already on to the next video. Drug doctor, I think, finished off the day, right? We have more drug doctor coming on Monday.
So you got, thus far, there's been the personal assistant, the therapist, the couple's therapist, and the drug doctor, and the stricken testimony.
And the sister.
And the sister started us off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. But so far, the the most entertaining testimony was by far Isaac Baruch, Johnny's friend since high school. I mean, he was wonderful. He was an absolute joy to watch. I remember in Rittenhouse, I couldn't stop talking about Nathan DeBruin. I was like, he is the best. And but in this trial so far, it's Isaac. I want to be his best friend. I want him to be my best friend. I know that his art is very politically charged, but even
he likes Trump a lot, and he puts people who like Trump a lot on in the art. They're very demonstrative how much they like Trump.
But he's definitely a storyteller. I mean, I think
for sure.
That's what everybody saw. Is he's the kind of guy you sit at the dinner table and he takes over with a yarn.
What was it? My show partner Mark said that he's the Kato Kalin of Johnny Depp.
Oh,
that's exactly what I thought, by the way, while he was on the stand. I'm like, oh, this is Kato. All right.
No, I mean, but he said that these guys all have those, people who they grew up with or they've known forever, and then they put them up and they kind of have them nearby. It's not completely uncommon.
But if your best friend becomes a billionaire, he could pay you more than any job. Your career could be being his friend, So
well, and also
I'm comfortable with that, Nate. If you want to hire me to be your friend, I just want to let you know I'm available.
Nate is a billionaire.
No, I mean, well, it makes sense too, though, in the sense that, well, you knew them as a kid and they were your friend back then. So at least they know you before anything else and you established a friendship. And it's, yes, there's a financial motivation that's potentially there, but you knew them before.
Yeah, well, that's Johnny Depp's friend. That's his friend. That's his boy.
Oh, yeah. That's his ride or die partner.
Yeah.
He totaled up only at $100,000, right?
Yeah.
Only 6 figures.
That's the cash.
4 years.
Okay.
But that's the cash he's got. He's been living in penthouse suites with billionaires and A-list actresses.
I gotta take it
rent free and not
to mention the drugs that he partaked in and shared, and
he's not coming out of pocket for nothing.
Yeah. This lifestyle, I know some people might find it alluring or like how nice that this sounds like living hell to actually have a meaningless, vapid existence, just notwithstanding money and luxury. I think this sounds like a curse of a lifestyle, not a blessing to me. But
well, I mean, it depends, right? I mean, he said he wanted to do his art. He got to do his art.
Yeah.
I mean, however you feel about that, as long as you can find fulfillment outside of money and career, I think it can work. But I think for the most part, most people are going to find it exactly as you described. I'm not sure that's Isaac necessarily, based on what he said in testimony.
No, I think he likes people, though. I mean, one thing about it is I think he's the guy who likes to hang out, and he's in a good spot. He's obviously very engaging. You naturally want to be around him. He seems to make everybody feel welcome, even in the courtroom. Even when he was saying, "Do I have to sit here?" Or whatever. It's just his attitude. It was always really just fun. Like you're paying attention to him. What's he going to say next? And I think he enjoys people, and he just enjoys being there. So for him, that might be a fantastic existence to just go party to party to party to party and just be the dude.
Well, you can see the value Johnny gets out of it, certainly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's that positivity and friendliness.
But. Yeah, and having someone that you really feel like he's not using him, even though he's benefited greatly. He doesn't seem like he's using Johnny.
Well, it's like family. I think Johnny considers him to be like family. Right. Take care of my family. And if you think about Johnny Depp, he's a business in of itself, right? There's he can make money, that type of thing. So and he has all these people working for him. So I'd understand you want to bring the people who are close to you into that sphere. But whenever you conflate money and friendship and business, things go awry. So it's just interesting that it just hasn't gone with them because they've been together for like 40-something years, right? He's known for 42 years. So
yeah, something like that.
What's everyone's consensus thus far of where this is heading? When I saw the who was it? Not the Australian lady. When I saw who was it? It was the Australian lady talking about how nice Johnny Depp was. Then I'm thinking like, okay, fine, maybe this was a good reason to go to trial. And then when you hear the doctor saying that they both committed violence against one another, I said, these are exactly the risks of going to trial. Nobody's going to come out looking good, but Johnny Depp is the one who's got to prove his case.
The doctor didn't exactly say they both committed violence against each other.
I take
very
it
cagey about the Johnny aspect of whatever that abuse would have been. But her big takeaway line is that she has a couple times says that she felt they engaged in mutual abuse. Whether that was
the takeaway line is she gave as good as she got.
Yep.
Now, to every person on the planet, damn near, especially males, that has one meaning.
Yeah,
I don't know about that. I don't think so. I don't think so because when the context of these conversations is including not just physical violence, but also the fact that Amber has a jackhammer style of talking, and Johnny can never get a word in edgewise. He can never keep up with the conversation, and how she is actually verbally abusive of him, how she dresses him down with her words regularly, saying, "You are fat, you are old, you're a has-been. What are you doing? You can't."
Okay, so then that's not giving as great as she's got. That's instigating. So if you look at the whole course of the conversation,
But
that
my
she was
point-
saying-
my wife. I would say my wife gives as good as she gets. I sure as shit ain't talking about violence. I'm saying she can hold her own in an argument with me.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying when I use that line. I would absolutely.
but this is part of a summation, including violence.
But not.
Yeah, that's
no,
true,
that's
yeah.
it's Johnny Depp's admission to his counselor at that point in time, and they really aren't talking about violence in that context, in that conversation. Violence is a part of the entirety of the counseling, but in that conversation, that isn't the. That isn't the pretext for
I
when he
heard
said
it was okay, but I remember, and I don't have a photographic memory, so let's go back to the record. She was talking about giving as good as he got, and then escalating, and then Amber starting to instigate. So
Yes, that's a part of her narrative.
and violence was the undercurrent topic of
Yeah.
discussion here. And now what I'm not just taking that phrase itself, but when I put that phrase in with violence being part of the conversation, by the way, I'm on Johnny's side here, but it
Well, I'm
doesn't
not.
look good.
I'm not. In fact, I think he's probably going to lose this case, and I'm not on his side either. I'm just trying to evaluate it as it comes in. But I mean, I think you're giving too much credence to that particular phraseology. I really think the mutual abuse phrase is more important than that.
Eric, run a poll if you can. But Hogue, I mean,
Yeah.
I only understand it one way, which is why I would never even use that as a descriptive term in any verbal altercation.
Well, see, I think at that point in time, Johnny is trying to say that she's no victim, right? Like, what he's coming up against is that she continues to engage in conversations with the counselor, especially separate from him, that are trying to establish essentially her street cred, her credibility as, I'm attacked, I'm the victim. This is what he does to me. This is what position he puts him in. And his response is effectively, she's no victim. She's participating in whatever's happening. But I think to ascribe violence to that is, frankly, just as bad as the cross-examination that says, well, when you're talking about these things, doesn't that mean that you're talking about drugs? Doesn't that mean that you're talking about violence against your wife? In terms of full, just pure legalese, I don't see how you can interpret that phrase specifically for that reason with the context in which it's given to that particular counselor.
Yeah, but you see, but I'm going to start pushing back, and somebody in the chat said, I think my view is closer to a jerk. You're sliding right into lawyer. And I'm just no. I know that's what you do, but are you arguing to win a lawyer's opinion, or are you arguing to win a person's opinion who is not trained by the law,
Sure,
who's a normal person?
If I may just clarify, whoever knows this answer, the violence was only from Amber's conversation with Doctor. That much we agree on, but I think she gave as good as she got was the doctor quoting what Johnny Depp said.
Yes, that explicitly stated, because she said, I'm quoting him. I take certain notes. And why does she keep taking that phrase? That phrase is a standout phrase that she bothered to note it and to repeat it and repeat.
Her notes are shit.
Her notes are not good.
Yeah,
well,
but let's
keep in mind though that the conversations that she was detailing were conversations that she had with each of them, either together or individually over time. So when you look at them bunched up together in the way that we saw them through that deposition video, you can see them side by side and think that is most definitely what that means. But I do agree with Hogue that it wasn't exactly clear what the context of that specific conversation was when Johnny said she gave as good as she got. That could still very much imply verbal abuse, verbal violence, or verbal argument, I guess.
Just shouting matches. It doesn't even have to rise to level of abuse depending on the context. And Eric, I'm not trying to discount that is a valid interpretation. In fact, I was saying that on the stream yesterday. I'm saying when you've got these kinds of stakes, I think we have to be clear that violence really isn't referenced in the conversation where that phrase pops out.
I disagree, because
that's worthy of
there is a through line. I disagree, because there is that through line of violence in that conversation.
Ascribe a through line to a personal call with Johnny Depp after the other counseling has taken place.
Well, she said she was escalating. It's literally in that, and again, I'd have to look at the transcript. She's literally saying that he gave as good as he got, and they're going over it. And then she said, and it starts to escalate, and then Amber starts to initiate the violence. but we're escalating and switching the initiation of what? Of violence. I mean, I'm not just making this up.
I think we can split the baby here and say,
okay, Solomon.
if you have like a real split the baby. If you have one juror, which I believe you can, or two jurors who can look at this situation and think of it like either Eric is portraying it or Hogue is portraying it, either way is not good for Johnny Depp. Because when I saw it, I thought it was violence, but now listening to Hogue, I'm thinking, yeah, that makes more sense. But the fact of the matter is, if it's that tie, I think Johnny loses this argument.
That goes to Amber.
I think at the end of the day, was she talking about violence? Was she not talking about violence? Well, you know what? Wins for Amber. And I think that's the problem with that statement. I think that statement was a problem for Johnny Depp, even if you think it was good or bad.
I don't think it's good.
Johnny's got to get out of it.
What I hear.
Direct. Johnny has got to come out of that one. I'm just saying Johnny has got to address that.
Yeah,
some way.
He probably will on the when he's on the stand for like 3 days or whatever.
Sure, define got.
Joe's struggling.
Yeah. Nate, I think you're correct in what you're saying. However, we should never lose sight of the fact that typically in juries, there'll be one or two dominant people who will have their position on things. And whether they're Team Amber or Team Johnny, there's really no way to know. But, or whichever way even if they walked in neutral, whichever way they fall, ultimately, it's difficult to know. But that's why when there's murkiness there, you're right that the way, first of all, it's not a criminal trial. I don't know if that has to be unanimity here, ultimately. I'm not sure about that. But because it's a civil trial, you just need to get potentially the majority. And secondly, when you're talking about the dominant element, and it's really just a matter of being a dominant persona. Like that's the personality of the juror who's arguing. And so the one who says, I want to be the foreman, you know what I'm saying? That's the person who ends up typically being dominant. And if there's enough room there to be interpreted either pro Johnny or anti-supporting Johnny's case, I think that the dominant persona probably ends up carrying the day, just because everyone else is like, all right, let's just go along with what Tim is saying or what Sheila is saying, because they just don't want to argue and they don't care that much about it. Ultimately, there's enough other stuff there that I don't think it's lethal to Johnny. That's my
well, I think it's a problem because it's a defamation suit. They're literally saying she lied. There's nothing, and then right there's something that could be perceived as violence. Defamation out the window.
Most
because of truth, right?
Most important.
Kinda.
Jeez.
Okay, Nick, go for it.
Hey, what's up? Sorry if I come in loud. I don't know. The Wave does not like my video, and they updated OBS, so I can't down sample to 30 FPS. So when I turn it on, it is
the voice of God.
Frames.
It's like the voice of God coming at us.
Okay. So anyway, so here's the thing, right? Like it's going to be what the jury's interpretation of violence is. What domestic violence is, what Amber Heard means by it. That's the advantage and disadvantage of a jury, right? Is that they're not legal machines like a judge is purportedly
That's what I've been saying.
Going to be. They've already gotten past this idea that this is automatically not defamation because of truth. That's
right.
now effectively out the window, because the jury can know that. But the jury gets my truth, right? The jury gets to say, hey, you know what? I mean, maybe he did slap her or whatever. Maybe she was slapping him, he was slapping her. But to then go out and represent that she's this victim of domestic violence for the purposes of ruining his life, that's actually a bridge too far, because if she was getting as good as she's got, then they're mutual. But to represent that she's a victim is a lie. And so while it's not technical defamation lie as far as a judge would go, and maybe even as far as an appeals court would go, to a jury, I mean, that can easily be construed as a lie. And that's why getting to a jury in a defamation case is so critically important, especially for celebrities.
In other words, the key point is not just the fact that whether or not he did violence, but whether or not she was a victim. That's the part which is defamatory. And in fact, that is the part that was most lethal to him, that she's saying that she was victimized by him. That's why everyone hates him today. That's why he lost
She
everything.
didn't name him. Let's back up for a second, because she didn't name him.
That doesn't matter.
It's one article. No, I know that there's an inference angle and all that, but I'm saying there's a lot here that muddies the water. Again, I'd like to see him actually win. But I'm just looking at it, and
I think
you
that
know,
another piece is that, and I know that there was a super chat earlier that mentioned this, is that there's going to be more evidence that is going to open the door quite a bit, I think, and it'll be interesting because I know it's coming. I kind of don't want to ruin it for everybody, but because I'd like to see people's impressions as more evidence does come out about, you know, what really happened during these incidents. Because the thing is that the other part of this whole victimization aspect or whole angle or whatever is that you know, there's going to be a certain angle coming out that Amber may be the boy who cried wolf, so to speak. She is exaggerating a lot of this stuff to the point that she is fabricating, in my opinion, based on what I've seen so far. Now, of course, other evidence might come out to show, oh, okay, maybe I was wrong about that assessment. You know, of course, that's totally possible. But based on what I've seen so far, there is some evidence, quite a bit of evidence to suggest that she kind of concocted a lot of this stuff to make it look like something that it wasn't. And so if the jury is a little bit on the fence of that, and they are looking at her as maybe not so much of a victim, you know, maybe it's a little bit mutual, and then she goes and lies her ass off and makes it look like a bloody, you know, horrible, awful, violent scene that it really wasn't, the jury is also going to point to their own sense of justice and say, like this woman needs to be punished for what she did to this man. Like she did this intentionally to him. If the jury sees that, then they are much more likely to find in favor of Johnny Depp. It's going to even though it might not be to the letter of the law as we are looking at it in a very ticky-tacky lawyery way for the jury. I think that is something that will probably influence them.
This is where I stand as with Chris right here. It has very little to do with any kind of verdict. It is simply a publicity trial. Whether he wins or loses, it's majorly public relations, because he needs to give people a reason to hire him to work again. And so whatever the outcome, they at least can say, yeah, we watched the trial. I believe him. That's BS. I'm going to hire him. He doesn't have that right now. I believe that's the whole bottom line. And he had to sue. And I've argued with people on this panel about how he had to sue.
Yeah,
others were saying they shouldn't.
Yeah,
but I think he did.
Well, because he was canceled. That's what happens when you're canceled. You can't get your message out. And now he's being able to get his message out because Johnny's whole thing here is he's got $100 million in debt and he wants to get another job. They've canceled him from all these big movies.
I am not sipping for Amber, for God's sake.
and now, unfortunately, the only way he can get his story out is through this public trial. So, you know, and I think he's doing a good job, because if you ask me before this trial who was the aggressor, you'd be like, oh, well, he hit her, she hit her. After week one, I think it's clear that the message now coming out of week one of this trial is Johnny was not the aggressor, it was Amber. But now the second part of that question is, was Johnny giving as good as he got? Because Johnny has admitted to pushing her, has admitted to hitting her. So if you're telling me it comes down to, I hate saying it's what's abuse. Is pushing someone, is yelling someone, is doing all that. And if I can make the argument right now after week one with Johnny's pulling his case that, well, if he's pushing her and if he's admitting to hitting her, that's abuse. And she says I'm a victim of abuse. I don't see where the defamation is. I think that may be truthful. Right. So maybe there's more to come out. But now
that is
I'm voting against
great
Johnny.
point, Nate. Just because they're fighting each other doesn't mean that it's not abusive.
Well, and
both can be guilty.
I'll venture one thing to say. People might disagree, but the victim part of the statement is what I would consider to be the opinion part. The abuse part would be the matter of fact part.
I don't think any of these statements say the word victim. I'm just looking up the Washington Post article right now.
I say the issue is the defamatory statement is, did he commit acts of violence against her? That she thinks she's a victim, that's her own conclusion, perception of it, whether or not, you know, context-wise, how it led to that. But did she experience abuse as a matter of fact? And the question is going to be, okay, fine. She gave as good as she got. She instigated, she escalated, and Johnny Depp, instead of leaving the relationship, turned to, hitting her from, on one occasion.
Why is victimhood opinion?
Statements.
Well, because victimhood, I think the victim is a qualification that you give to a set of facts. The set of facts are what's important. Did he strike her? Did he hit her? Whether or not she considers herself a victim or asks for it, like Rosenbaum, are different things. But Rosenbaum,
let's look at the statements. I got the statements up.
So I want to say first that they have already expressed in their opening statements that they are going to defend the title as not written by Amber Heard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a fair defense, I think.
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think that the strongest statement there for
What are you
Johnny
doing?
Depp's
Did you
case
take
is
that
the
out,
second
David?
one.
What?
No, that
I
was
think-
me. I'm sorry. I didn't even know. I clicked.
I mean, I
I
did
got it.
see
I'll put it
suffering
back up.
succotash now say that I'm a Fed, which is very. So now I believe that suffering succotash is joking, unless
Yes.
I am a
Or
member
he's
of
right.
a federal party. I ran for a federal party, so I guess that makes me a Fed.
So
Well,
Well,
you
David thought I
share
was
it.
CIA.
You share it.
I mean, before he came on my show, he called me. He's like, "Who are you? What's this about again? Why are you interviewing all these CIA
You're still
people?" So,
CIA.
hey, hush.
I remember being suspicious of Eric based on who he had on
As
his
long as the
channel.
check clears, Kurt.
Here's
Uh,
the statements back up again.
That was
Well, the
not-
check doesn't clear. You can't sue them. There was a Supreme Court case about that once.
Okay, so okay, the first one is the headline, or right? So
I can't
Yes.
read that too good.
Yeah, it is
Okay,
a
Boomer.
little teeny tiny.
well, I mean, I can't
Viva,
help
I
that.
just saw a civilization spring up in your hair when you leaned forward there. It was amazing.
like that episode of The
Nate-
Simpsons.
Nate, scroll down to the other statements because the
Actually,
opinion part.
These are the three that they're suing over. So just so we all know, in the complaint, Johnny is suing for defamation per se, because he's alleging that she's saying that he committed a crime, domestic violence, so forth, domestic assault. So these are the three statements that his lawyers pointed to in their opening statements that they believe are defamatory by implication, and therefore this worth $50 million. So these are the three statements.
Yeah,
The first
so-
one, I think these are going in hierarchy of worse to less worse. I imagine.
Well, the first one is not written by Amber Heard, so they're gonna allegedly,
that
so they're gonna throw that out. But I want to say one thing to the point that Eric made earlier, and a lot of people are looking at. A lot of people are looking at this defamation as if it's the public, right? Like, oh, this was a message to the public, and therefore he was defamed in the eyes of the public. Wrong, and that's. So because she doesn't name him, that would be a concern, except for the fact that this is just a second, lady. Here, this is not targeted at the public. And that's the critical element of this. So defamation is the party identifiable to the recipient or a purported recipient of the message? So in this case, the industry knew who Amber Heard was talking about. This op-ed is targeted to the industry. These statements were recognized by people in the industry who know who she's talking about, and that's where the defamation can occur. And remember,
that's a great point. Are they calling? Are they calling the producers of the movies who sacked them? Because that is something that I've wondered about, Nick, and you're bringing it up very well. Well, no, because if they say, yeah, we knew it was him. We got rid of him because of this article, or we got rid of him because he's got that.
The defense's opening statements aren't even fighting on whether it was Johnny. They're fighting the focus of the article, but not that you couldn't know. I think there's a Reddit thread the day it goes up that it's Johnny Depp. I mean, it's not. The 2 years ago was the dead giveaway. I would be willing to bet that the Red Lions fight about including that or not. But
if I'm Kurt tends to have what's the word? Controversial takes on things. Kurt, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, Kurt.
I feel so called out right now.
With your controversial take.
I wasn't going to weigh in until Kurt expressed.
Here, let me help you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a strong opinion on this one, to be honest. I don't have a super strong opinion on this one, to be honest. I feel like in week one, there's been a lot of good evidence for Johnny Depp. I came to it not knowing very much, to be honest. I just kind of heard people talk about it, but never really read anything about it. So I didn't really know much about it at all. And I thought that I thought Johnny Depp's team has done a good job on week one of painting Amber Heard as whatever Johnny Depp's problems might be. And I'm sure we'll get to that eventually. But whatever her problems might be, that she has problems, that she has been an abuser, an aggressor, a person who has engaged in physical or mental abuse, let's say, of Johnny Depp at some points in her life, that she is a toxic person to him. And maybe they're just toxic to each other, which is totally possible. But I came away from week one feeling like Johnny Depp has done a good job of, pointing out her flaws and doing, and his flaws haven't been really exposed, but you wouldn't expect them to because, it's Amber Heard hasn't presented her case yet.
No, when she testifies, her testimony is going to be the must-watch testimony.
Wait,
Yeah,
Oh, I
John
mean,
Depp's
yeah.
testimony will be
Yeah.
up there too.
Both of them. Both. I think it's going to hinge on which one of them can sell to the jury their personality. And frankly, I think Johnny's got a lot better shot at that than
Agreed.
Amber Heard. She
Agreed.
has, and it's not necessarily her fault. I think there's some societal biases in this, especially for women and especially pretty women. She has to come across as not cold, not overly
Right.
emotional, and
Yes.
she can't be too hot and she can't be ugly. She has to be perfect on the stand.
But can I ask you all, why is it she's sitting there with her hair up in these
We talked-
business
yeah.
suits? She should be wearing her hair down, these soft floral colors, make her look as feminine, as innocent as possible. She looks like the most tightly wound up bitch in the world. Like the
I'll say
kind of woman-
vulnerable.
Yeah,
Well,
she should look
vulnerable.
She needs some, and when we
But
talked
Joe,
about
she's
this
a
yesterday.
lesbian now.
I wasn't going to say that,
lesbian
but yes,
again.
the bull fill in the blank comes to mind, right?
Yeah, we
Anyway.
talked about this yesterday that there's been this idea coming out of Hollywood in recent years about having a strong independent female, and these characters that headline some of these movies like Captain Marvel, etc. It's like there's this idea that women, in order to be a hero, have to be completely impervious and have zero vulnerabilities, and because it's like if you allow for any of that, then it's like, oh no, like women are less than men or something like that.
Maybe
But
she's
it's
not
so
playing to the
stupid
jury.
because you can't have a hero without vulnerabilities. You can't have, someone who is going to win in this trial without looking a little bit human, without looking a little bit soft. If she's too hard, people are going to be like, I don't like you. And regardless of whether that's just an unfortunate, attribute that she has some RBF, everybody's got something like that, right? So it could be
Not
something
me.
like that.
I
But
always look happy.
I like to lead his movie critique corner right there. First of all, I thought we were going to go right into The Last Jedi. I was super excited.
let's get
Alina-
Courting on here to talk about wokeism in Hollywood.
Is it possible she's not dressing for the jury, she's dressing for her peers? Kind of like
That
I'm
is-
saying,
she's
this is
making a
all
mistake.
about Johnny getting work. I think it is for the case, but if she's worried about her work and how she's represented in Hollywood, because remember, she's representative. And how many times do we see that where somebody is so obviously not representing who they are, but they're held up, like see Jussie Smollett?
Well, let's take a
See how
let's
there's
assume-
still people
let's
out there
pretend that
propping
she-
him up.
Let's pretend she loses the case. The juror gives an interview and says basically she looked too cold and independent or whatever. I mean, is that not its own usefulness in public relations for
Yes,
her potentially
it
going back
could
to
be.
Hollywood?
So
So I mean,
I'm a badass. I'm a warrior. I
This is
stood up for
my-
women, and now I'm getting punished even further.
Because
Look
I'm
at
a
me.
strong woman.
no, but
Yeah,
I
was
mean
punished because I'm a strong
sincerely.
woman.
Like if you're thinking down 3 steps like that, maybe you do. And if that's the way she likes to look anyway, although she doesn't look like that in the surveillance photos, then this is that area where the commenters yell at me because I'm like, we're talking about our outfits. I don't like any of this. When
No,
we're talking
but
about
it's part of the
I
part
get
of
it.
the strategy. Like we to say
why I'm
not
not a
to talk
litigator,
about
Nate.
the outfits. Yeah, to say not talk about the outfits, we might as well not talk about the case, right? Because if the presentation is not just what's being said, it's what
I
people are
want
seeing.
legal robots, Nate.
Rick is going to start a channel called Legal Robot.
Yeah, we're just going to read statutes exactly as they're written and blow up society as we interpret them as they would need to be.
This is not to be mean to Rekieta. I'm just going to put Rekieta where the chat doesn't block anyone's face like it was blocking.
Yeah, that's what I was doing earlier.
No, now I'll do this, and you can see why I have my
no, block him again. Block him. Someone in the chat said it, but I was going to say it first. She's dressing for herself. This may be totally my imagination of her personality. I think.
Look at that.
I think.
Call it Nick Headroom.
Oh, look! You look good. You look decent, Nick. Come on. There we go. Now,
It looks good though. Yeah, you look fine.
I think she has a very serious personality disorder. I think she's going to both cry and rage on the stand. And when she testifies, if I'm betting on who's going to lose their temper on the stand, it's going to be her, and that's going to be determined from the testimony. She will also cry, but when she's pushed, she will react aggressively on the stand. Whereas I don't think Johnny Depp is going to show the slightest iota of aggression on the stand. My prediction.
Yeah,
He's not really aggressive, I don't think, in his personality. That's one thing. He has never come across, not like I know the guy, but I have never gotten a vibe from him that's aggressive. Like, Tom Sizemore, yeah, you can sort of see him punching somebody.
If that were to actually happen, I do think that Johnny wins the case. If that actually had that kind of reactivity on the stand.
Yeah.
I guess I tend to think she can act her way through that. She has to have the one instruction: don't look
Ooh.
at all like an aggressor of any kind, even on cross.
Have you
If
seen
she
her
can't hold
deposition
that
testimony?
line- What'd you say?
Yeah, our deposition was not
Have you
helpful.
seen her deposition
Yeah,
No,
testimony?
again, I'm a blank slate on this. I'm just a juror.
Oh, yeah, not so
Yeah.
good. Not so good. Very cagey.
Very,
yeah.
She
Yeah.
does not
All
come
right.
across as sincere.
I'll
or
consider
honest
that
at
a
all.
spoiler alert. And now that I've yelled at everybody on the stream, so Eric, thank you for having me. I have a hard 1 o'clock. So none of you can respond. I won the poker game. I leave. No,
That's
no,
what
no.
she said.
You said it, you're right, you win.
If
Yeah.
someone's taking something out of context, I have a hard one, and then edit right there. Forget the
There
applause.
it is. That's it. Tubin, don't Tubin us.
All right.
That's
Thank
why
you.
Nate's been having his camera off this whole
Yes,
time.
Later, Richard.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks,
And
everybody.
Nick now today.
Hey, thanks, man.
I still don't understand how Jeffrey Tubin, like right after like the meeting ends, he can't go into the room. He's got to just keep the camera on. Like we got to get it done now. Like in front of
No,
everybody.
I feel that. No, I got it. Yeah.
Why do you think I keep turning off my camera?
Yeah, no, exactly right.
Hey, I heard a female. Yeah, never mind.
All right, so I go by the chat. Is everyone fed up with the Johnny Depp discussion?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm fed up with it.
I'm by the way, not to compete. I'm going live.
Oh
at
shit,
2
we should have
o'clock.
been talking about that freaking Elon Musk while Richard
Yeah, well,
is here.
let's get there because
Yeah, well, the main guy who does it is gone. Okay,
He's
brilliant.
gone, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a
Get outta here,
magnificent
Andy.
host.
Hey,
just to plug my own stuff. I'm going to go live at 2 and go over a few issues, including some Canadian stuff. But let's pick some brains on the Elon Musk. Does everybody know that he's getting sued? There's a class action shareholder lawsuit that hasn't been certified yet against Elon for
Yeah.
apparently failing to disclose his 5% interest in due
And
time.
and he's under investigation by, I believe, the Justice Department in California for
He's got a whole
supposedly
bunch of
racism going on at Tesla. And what a coincidence! It happens the same day as his announcement, and he happens to be from that other country. What is that one? South
Saudi
Africa.
Arabia.
Yeah. Oh, and he's in a battle with the prince right now, who upped their stake.
Yeah, well, the accusations of racism, I would take with a grain of salt. But I'm curious about the failure to disclose having acquired a 5% ownership in the company, and that's a legitimate, that's a real legitimate a bone to have with Elon for everybody who sold, not knowing that he was slowly acquiring 5 to 9% shareholding.
How does that work though? Because do I have to report everything that I do or whatever? I mean, I'm just saying why is he, and I admit that, obviously his name is so big. If he's doing something, he moves markets. But let's say one of us has equal amount of money and is not really well known, and we acquire the same thing in that same pattern, because people don't tend to just say, oh, let me go buy it all at once and run the price up real quick because they see the heavy market activity. Why is it such a bad thing if he's not specifically breaking the law?
Well, no,
bummer for them.
I think it's specifically SEC regulations is once you've acquired a 5% interest, you have to make a public announcement, Elon Musk or Viva Frei. But
no matter who it is.
Yeah, if he did, and if he didn't, that's a serious problem. If he did, I mean, then the issue is he made the announcement.
Is there wiggle room though? Is it like if you buy 5% now, then you have to say that transaction of 5%. But what if I buy 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5, 0.5?
So that's, I mean, I'm sure that's, look, Elon's not stupid. So I presume there's going to be a decent argument as to why he didn't disclose as of when. I don't know what that's going to be. But then they might also come after him for failing to disclose his interest to acquire the company, which he's going to argue, which typically you have to announce once you've acquired 10%. But if you know you're going to buy the company anyhow, you announce it as of the time you know you're going to want to put in an offer. So,
well, why? You see, so some of these, no, I love how some of these, where they're like, okay, well, he just announced it to everybody, so this is a big strategic move and it's a play. Yes, it is, as a matter of fact. But then everybody's saying that that's bad. But then if he is quietly in the background negotiating, everybody's saying, oh, he's a sneaky billionaire. The dude's not going to win with the SEC. I really believe that. They hate his guts.
The problem is that we have to know the SEC rules to really talk about whether he can do it or he can't do it.
No,
right now, I think Viva's saying that it's the 5%, and if your question is why, and he says the SEC rule, unless we know the rules to tell you why he has to do it, there's a rule that's been broken. Essentially,
Well, it's a known rule. That's why, like, I mean, I don't want. There's a number of obligations, but once you acquire 5%, you have to start filling out certain forms. I mean,
and just report it.
And so people know.
And how much time do they have? Because we're talking about a
10
period
days.
here. Like, do you have 30 days to report it, and you report it at
10
29?
days. It's
or
10 days. So
10 days. See,
it's 10 days. The effective date, according to the filing, is March 14th, which would make March 24th the 10th day, which is he failed to meet that disclosure requirement. But that's the SEC rule, and the penalty is a civil penalty to the SEC of $207,000. Like, that's the outcome. The shareholder lawsuit is based on the rule.
$7,000. Let me just reach into my pocket for all this change.
For Elon Musk, it literally is, right?
Yeah,
like, it's that'd be pennies to us, equivalent to pennies. So the question, though, is can you sustain a private cause of action against him based on this SEC rule as a shareholder? And what is that private cause of action, and what is the remedy for it? Like, honestly, what is the remedy for failure to disclose with the class action lawsuit? I
mean, I think
most class action suits.
I was going to say, I think the Supreme Court's been fairly clear that you can't sustain a private cause of action unless the statute or regulations explicitly authorizes the private cause of action. So I think that question's been settled. So unless you can find something explicitly giving, it would just be just for the SEC.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the filing here to see if they're basing it off of just the SEC rule, then I think they're gonna lose.
Yeah, I think they're toast if they're trying to do that.
It'll be a headline to make him look shady.
Well, hold on a second. That's it. Kurt, I mean, I'm deferring to you. The idea would be even if you commit a statutory violation, unless that statute provides for civil remedies in the event of a violation, that the Supreme Court says that a citizen does not have recourse against the individual for a wrong that they can attribute to a statutory violation unless the law provides for it.
Yeah, that seems to be correct.
Yes, because you don't have any standing you wouldn't have any standing as a citizen unless the statute gives you standing.
That's exactly right. It's a standing issue. So if you're looking at like this SEC regulation, it gives power to the SEC to regulate. It says, okay, if you violate these rules, the SEC can take these courses of actions. That gives power to the SEC. You then can't turn around and say, okay, well, I also have an implied cause of action in that as a private citizen because of that. It's like, no, that was power to the SEC. If Congress wants you to have power as well, they'll give it to you. And you need something explicit giving private cause of action.
So I'm seeing what I don't see the filing yet, but I've got the law firm's presser on it.
Yeah, I emailed them actually today. I'll see if I can get a copy of the proceeding.
So their presser is indicating that basically anyone who sold Twitter between March 24th and April 1st, you were entitled to the gain that should have come from Musk's announcement, because it went from $39 a share to $49.97 a share on April 4th. So you should have gotten gain that you would have otherwise known about if he would have disclosed it, is what they're saying.
Okay. All right. That makes sense.
So I mean, the remedy would be Musk having to compensate anyone in that class action lawsuit for any sales of Twitter shares that they should have realized that approximate, that
didn't
they're asking for him to pay the difference.
Well, yeah, and Nate, Kurt, not to. I mean, it sounds shocking to me to say in civil law you have a cause of action if there's a wrong, a damages and a causal link. In this case, the wrong would be a clear statutory violation. The causal link would be, the amount that I lost by selling, not knowing what I ought to have known by law. I would be shocked if the shareholders don't have a remedy against Elon if it is in fact a bona fide SEC violation for that's the
class action suit.
That's the class action suit
what the class action suit is. In a class action suit, basically you have you have certain firms which take on class action suits on behalf of everyone who's similarly situated in the class. You need to have numerosity and typicality, and this is exactly what the sort of thing class action firms tend to look for. They spend most of the time prosecuting securities SEC violations and mistakes in information disclosures that are made by companies as a way of basically starting. That's all they do. So this is the sort of thing that is right in their wheelhouse. And what they'll end up doing is they'll sue Elon Musk or whatever company he purchased it on, if it wasn't Elon Musk himself, but and try and say, look, you had a duty under the SEC regulations to inform people that you were selling between March, that you were a 5% interest shareholder between March 24th and April 1st. You failed to do that, and as a result of that, now these people were damaged, and everyone who signs on to the class would get their recovery for that.
But hold on, but if I understood what Kurt, Nate, and Nick were saying, is that there would be no civil remedy unless the statute provides for civil remedy.
Hold on. Well, just so we're clear, we're actually talking about two separate causes of action.
Right.
So the first cause of action is a civil cause of action by the SEC, because the SEC is authorized to do these cause of actions if you don't report. Then we have a second cause of action, which is Elon Musk not reporting it caused these people money. We lost $10 per share because he did that. So they're suing because of that loss. Our cause of action is because we lost money because he didn't report. The other cause of action is a civil cause of action for the SEC saying, well, he didn't report, and that's a violation of the law in Congress, and you got to pay the $200,000. So those are the two separate causes of action. One, we lost money because he did this bad thing, and the other one is we're going to hold him responsible for not filing.
I hate that. I you know what? I understand what they're suing for, but it just seems like such a specious pattern of thought. It's like, you sold something because you saw what was in the market and you decided at the time. It's like the whole.
Yeah, but if there's
the guy behind me bought a lottery ticket and I should have had that lottery ticket, damn it. Or I returned it. It's like sometimes you're
that's not understanding. That's not understanding how these markets, because the markets work off information, right? This is insider trading, right? If I know something's going to affect the market that could possibly move it, then that's the reason why you have these reporting requirements, so everyone can know, and then everybody can be on the same page. If he only knows, then that's a different story.
The other part of the go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was responding to Eric.
No,
I was going to say,
quiet. I want her to jump in.
I've been completely distracted from this conversation because I got a salacious detail update about, I'm sorry, I know people don't want to hear about the Depp v. Heard case, but somebody tweeted something to me and it's very interesting, and it has to do with yesterday, the witness getting kicked out.
Sure.
Apparently, did I mention here? I know I've mentioned before. Eve Barlow is on Amber Heard's team. She's an independent journalist. Anyway, she's the one that may have noticed this whole thing. Apparently, so today the reason why we're not streaming trial is because the court has motion hearings both for this case and for other cases in her docket. One of those motions was a motion by Johnny Depp's team to exclude Eve Barlow, and she has been excluded. I don't know if that's because of something that she did connected to that witness. And I don't know, but it's very interesting to me that has just happened, because she seems like she was pretty integral in trying to give them information from social media in real time that was going on. This is what has been said
Tug
before.
commented that she was doing it, I think. Or whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And let's be clear. Eve Barlow's a pile of garbage. Whatever anybody thinks, even if you're on Amber Heard's side, Eve Barlow is a giant pile of garbage, and she has been weaponized against anybody commenting on this case. Yeah. She has been involved in the doxing of 87 people, specifically related to just commentary about this. She sucks.
Is there recourse for doxing? I'm serious. I keep hearing about doxing and it's against Twitter rules and all that, but is there legal recourse for being doxed?
As of right now, no.
Yeah, not against Twitter, but against the person who does it, because it might be exposure of private facts. And then
private facts and an address is usually not. It could be. It'd be tough though. I'm not aware of any case that's actually been successful.
I just want to get clear on one point. I'm trying to Google at the same time. One point of contention, Nate. There's two causes of action potentially: civil by the SEC against Elon, and civil by citizens against Elon. If I understood what you said earlier, Kurt, about the Supreme Court, did I understand wrong that the argument was the Supreme Court said the individual citizen has no cause of action against Elon for a statutory violation unless the statute provided for that remedy? Did I understand that wrong?
No, you got it basically right. Yeah, you need some sort of express cause of action.
Correct.
Well, express cause of action, but does that mean violating the statute, or does that mean I presume
it could mean violating the statute? It could mean something else.
So the citizens have a cause of action because this law firm is not taking a frivolous, on its face, baseless lawsuit.
Yes.
Fine. Okay, that's because I thought
the citizen.
Go for it.
Yeah, you're right. It's just there are going to be two separate causes of action, even though they're related against the same statute. So once the and it's interesting because narrowing the first cause of action is you violated this statute, and it's just like in a criminal case. Only the prosecutor can prosecute citizens for violating criminal statutes, but they're doing this in the civil context. But then there's also a civil side where those people with those citizens are suing because they've been harmed by Elon, and they're trying to say he's harmed us in this way. So we have been damaged, and we want to recover.
Nick brought up
All
the
right.
suit. If we
Yeah, here's the complaint. I've skipped down to the counts. So the count one is violation of Section 10B of the Exchange Act and Rule 10b-5 promulgated thereunder. So he violated the Exchange Act rule in that he employed devices, schemes, and artifices to defraud, made untrue statements of material fact, and or omitted to state material facts necessary to make the statements not misleading, and engage in acts, practices, in a course of business which operated as a fraud and deceit upon those who sold Twitter securities during the class period. So one thing to remember about this is that Elon Musk, so the way this rule works, learning this on the fly, I'm not an expert, but once you acquire that 5% stake, that's when you're required to disclose within 10 days. He acquired it on March 14th, should have disclosed by March 24th. Now, the part of the problem is he continued to acquire shares from March 15th all the way through his disclosure when he eventually had 9.1. So he almost doubled his position at what they're calling an artificially deflated price. And that is advantageous to him. That is the fraud that's on the court, because had he made the announcement of the move, the market could have reacted to it ahead of time. But I think part of the argument that he would have is announcing a 5% stake would have moved the market less than a 9% stake. There's also just general volatility in the market. Would Twitter have moved? Is there anything else that could justify the move? I mean, these would be defenses I'd be thinking.
Also, the
right
stock
away.
went right back down. It's almost back to where it was. So it was like a blip when he bought it and was right back down. So couldn't that be argued as well that it didn't really change the overall valuation of the stock if it barely had a bump?
It did for that time frame, and that's what they're going to say. We sold because we didn't think it was going to go up, and we were wrong. If we would have known, or if he would have followed the law and disclosed what he needed to disclose, then I wouldn't have sold, and I would have, my million shares.
Yeah, but you see, again, that's the whole thing of if the next thing coming along happened to be that, I would have, could have, and
no. This is very clear. If he would have followed the law and disclosed properly, I would not have sold because the markets went in. So again, that's the leap that they're trying to make. But the leap is he broke the law, and that negatively affected me, it seems.
Nick, if you could you DM that to me on Twitter if you're
Yep.
able?
Just to be clear, those people who are suing him,
I'll post it in the guest chat.
They're
right
basically
Cool.
they first you have the SEC going after them for civil things. Put that.
They
aside.
want their fine. Yeah,
that's they want to fine. Put that aside. Then the people who are suing him, their form of suing him they could do it individually or they could do it via class action suits. They tend to do it via class action suit because it makes more sense. They have two different bases to go after him. One is that there's a civil remedy that's afforded for in the criminal statute that allows them to do it. And the second cause of action they have is based on fraud. And now the question, and now they'll say that, look, if you had told us this, you had information that we did not have. So to the extent that we failed to maximize our potential profits from this stock, that's attributable to you.
correct.
And whether or not they succeed in winning on that, well, I don't know. And how much is their damages? And can every one of them claim that they would have sold at the highest point that Twitter reached during that period? Which is what Eric seems to have an issue with. Yeah, that does seem a little suspect. Whether or not they would succeed in getting that, I can't tell you. It could. Part of it will depend on the wording of the statute that opens up for civil liability.
Yeah.
On a strict theory of fraud, it seems difficult to believe that they would attain damages based on the best possible price and the assumption they all would have sold
the best possible price assumption. Yeah.
Maybe you'd accept as a middle ground the settled price, but what for certain, if I were to have known that Elon acquired a 5% interest and had it at that time, I wouldn't have sold it. I'm holding on to that stock.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate claim.
He's buying stock in mass, right? He's buying 10% of the stock. Of course, the price is going to go up.
He's been buying it day over day for 2 weeks, and he's continuing to do it after having.
He's not disclosing it to keep that price depressed because
so he can continue. so he can
Yeah.
buy it at the cheaper price. Nobody's being fooled, but can you prove it? It's not what you know, but what can you prove?
Well, but in this case, may not even have to prove it. It's a statutory requirement. He just had to do it.
The class action suits that are filed by these class action firms against SEC violations, they tend to almost always win because they know it's like they know the outcome beforehand. They're like, here's what happened. Here are the facts. Here's the statute. There's no real legitimate defense for it. It's not like there's knowledge defense or whatever. Once you know the set of facts, it's like this is a violation, and here we are able to calculate the damages. They have a phenomenal winning percentage. These class action firms.
Let's just say the violation by the SEC is a joke, right? Let's say Elon bought 1 million shares, and those million and the price, and he artificially kept the price at a minimum instead of it, and then it went to what, $10? It went up $10. That's $10 million. So even if he doesn't report, the fine from the SEC is $200,000 for not reporting. I would take that hit. Right, take my 200,000 because I'm saving $10 million on the stock price. Right, I'm saving all this money on the stock price, and then I can sell when it gets high and make all that money. So the 200,000 is
they're claiming he made 150. They're claiming he made 156 million. That's according to the
200,000 is the cost of doing business, right?
Well,
they're saying he netted 150 million from these violations.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
200,000 is great, but it's a cost.
He couldn't have netted it anyhow. He hasn't sold his shares, and it's not clear how you can't sell 9.2% without tanking the share price.
The company, yeah.
So, unless like the government wants to do tax unrealized gains. Let's tax.
No, but this is a hostile takeover. Gather 9% of the company, offer to buy it. If they don't let you buy it, then you put your shares in the open market and take the price. This is the game, and he's playing the game. So
there are arguments about, because you have to declare the intent if you at 10%, and he's staying under 10%. If he knew that this is what he was going to do, then he's still walking a fine line. But his filings there were drafted appropriately for a reason.
Nick,
so,
what were you saying?
Yeah. So again, not an expert. My brief and fast read of this, I'm reading the American Bar Association's brief on how these Section 10B litigations work. Just in case any of you want to do a video on it, they have a very thorough website. It seems like, to me, the key defense is going to be the Scienter allegation. Scienter is a part of this. It's an element of the claim. And the plaintiff pursuing it must demonstrate that the defendant acted with Scienter or the intent to deceive, manipulate, or defraud. Negligent conduct is insufficient to create liability. Reckless conduct may satisfy this requirement, and the necessary degree of recklessness varies by circuit. So that seems to be one of the big hiccups there. I do have the particular part up if you want to pull it up, Eric, the Scienter allegation on the
in the Northeast
section
we say science.
Hey guys,
I say
sorry.
Scienter.
I'm gonna head out because I've got some stuff that I need to take care of. I'm gonna be flying tomorrow and heading back to my studio overseas. So I'm trying to fit everything in. But thank you so much for having me on, Eric. This was great. This is great hanging out with all of you guys again. See you next time.
All right,
good to see you.
Bye-bye.
And how do I leave? Oh yeah, here we go. I'm gonna boomer my way out.
Hit the X.
Bye.
Did you try to restart your computer? Oh, she's gone. Okay.
So here's the allegation. As alleged herein, defendant acted with Scienter, according to Joe. I say Scienter, since that's how I learned it.
The accent is on the end.
It's a hard C. It's Scienter, guys. Come on.
My God.
Defendant Musk he knew or recklessly disregarded that he had an obligation to file Schedule 13 GD to disclose his ownership stake in Twitter. Furthermore, he saved approximately $143 million on his Twitter purchases by delaying the filing of the required schedule and purchasing additional shares at deflated
This is
prices.
interesting.
That's it. Boom. That's exactly what we've been saying.
No, he knew or recklessly disregarded. I guarantee you he purchased this through a professional company. The question is going to be, I presume, a question of reliance. So it's because if you say he knew or specifically had to with specific intent, if that's the threshold, interesting.
How late was he in filing? How late was it? I'm
7
curious.
days, maybe 6 days.
Well, because
24th, 6. He filed in the 4th, 10 days.
Okay, the reason why I was asking is I don't know if there'd be any buffer, like if, like David was saying, he went through another organization, would they hold liability? Like, hey, I asked them to do this and do this paperwork. You know, they're handling it and they're my proxy or whatever.
It takes time for it to clear sometimes. But no, the issue, it might not necessarily be the delay, but rather his announcement of his shareholdings, because he did make a public announcement. When was it written?
But is it an announcement or a filing? I mean, technically, a lot of people buy stuff and they don't announce it. They just put in whatever the filing are and they don't talk about it.
Well,
people are following them.
This is where I think the mens rea component to this comes in, about the recklessness. Because let's say I buy I'm like, hey, I'm going to buy shares in this company. Give me 1 million shares, and that happens to be 15%. But I didn't know, or had no reason to know, or there was no way I could have figured out that was that amount. So that's why I think that mens rea piece of it. But so now, and that's what these shareholders are going to have to prove. Did he do it more or less in this way where he should know? And I think you can make that argument, because it's not like this is some new guy on the block when it comes to buying and selling shares. And this is a well-informed professional, one of the richest people on the planet.
Dude.
So
he's cagey as hell. I'll be the first to admit it, but I'm saying prove it.
Yeah, but now you got to prove the mens rea. You're right.
Recent Supreme Court case clarified something that I was clarified when the defendant had the opportunity to do this. There's a presumption, and this is the theory of this case. The reliance presumption for the reliance element is that the plaintiff is using a fraud on the market theory. That is the theory alleged in this case. And that is somewhat controversial according to the ABA, but it says that the defendant must be given the opportunity before class certification to defeat the presumption of the fraud on the market through evidence that an alleged misrepresentation did not actually affect the market price of the stock. So if it did not, the prerequisites for establishing the presumption cannot be established. So that's another defense that Musk's team would have, is to say basically that anything else affected the stock price in this particular way. That's going to be
Does
tough.
Anybody know about
case,
this
I
one?
think.
Yeah,
about Vanguard's purchase?
That's going to be tough for us.
This chat's interesting. How about Vanguard's purchase that was announced as purchase sometime during the first quarter of 2022, but would not disclose the date? It'll be interesting if others were doing this exact same thing at the time.
But do you guys think that Elon's doing this whole I'm going to buy Twitter as it's kind of like a smokescreen for something else? Because I
think he actually wants to buy it. I think he's a bored billionaire. He wants to have his own platform, like Jeff Bezos has the Washington Post. He must have Twitter. And if you've got the money and you've got the means, wouldn't you want the platform? I mean, screw a newspaper, buy Twitter. Every reporter's on Twitter.
No, I think he genuinely wants it. It's probably an easier feat to buy Twitter and affect change on Earth than to colonize Mars. But
well, yeah, and you know what? It's also cheap. If you look at all the social media companies, look how much power there is in Twitter for the message and influence. It's not as big as Facebook, but I'd say it sways more public opinion than Facebook. But yet
it's a bigger marketplace.
Exactly, but it's bargain. It's pennies in comparison to Facebook's value or Instagram's value or any of the other values. So it's actually brilliant. It's the right company for him to buy. And I do think that he could, quote, unlock it because he has some good ideas, like the Twitter Blue $3 for verification.
I think that's I think it's a terrible idea, the Twitter Blue. That legitimizes bot armies, which campaigns will have a lot of money to buy. So
I disagree, because that'll actually prevent the bot armies. Oh, are you going to pay monthly for every single bot? No, that tends to knock it down. That's the whole locals principle. That's the locals principle, dude. You're on that.
Clinton spent $1 billion on her campaign.
You're gonna pay for the bots. Yeah,
you can still have but you're only gonna get so far on a bot, and besides that can be filtered. And the troll aspect of it, that's the whole principle of locals. How many times you're on it too, David? Do you hear trolls don't pay for subscriptions? It prevents trolls because they pay a monthly fee. So you can't use the same argument going both ways. You're
talking about a casual troll versus a politically financed troll. They would just allocate a portion of any fundraising campaign to buying blue check marks to make it look legitimate.
Yeah,
I still don't think it's going to go that far, and you can build in mechanisms to obviously filter for that very easily.
Well,
because if you're saying that you have to show an identification and everything else, like, look, it doesn't take that much to say, show me the driver's license, show me this, and then check a record. That could all be part of it, and then you still qualify. You had to verify, you had to prove that you were you, correct?
For what? To get verified?
Yeah.
Did I have to show ID?
Everyone I know who had to show ID. So that does throw a wrench into this. Right. So go show me an ID on your bot. So go manufacture all your fake driver's licenses and everything else to pull that off.
They could be, well, anyways, where there's a will, there's a way, and where there's a market, it will be created. There's the opportunity would be too nice to actually have legitimate blue check mark accounts that carry more sway, that look legit, to go out and do exactly. There's a lot of people who would do it. The freaking bird doggers are real people. They get paid money to do it. So there's no shortage then to take out blue checkmark accounts and just become political operatives, so to speak.
Right, but if that's the case, then why didn't you have more of a sway? Remember, we went crazy about Facebook, and I forgot the name of the group that supposedly was all pro-Trump and everything else, and the actual effectiveness of them was like 100,000 messages or something, which was a pittance.
Well,
and that was all the money in the world. So I'm going to push back. It's pretty easy to pick some of this up when you get into
I'll say this. I don't think it's as easy as you make it sound, because I know with the I don't know if you guys heard about the Black Lives Matter issue that happened during the 2019, was it 2020? No, 2016, where so when Black Lives Matter was real hot, I'm sorry, in 2019, 2020, when Black Lives Matter was really hot, there was a foreign actor, and what they did was they started putting money to mess with the U.S. election. They started putting a lot of money into these activist movements, Black Lives Matter and all that. But then they created like a fake Black Lives Matter, and come to find out, this fake Black Lives Matter had more followers and more influence than the actual Black Lives Matter group on Facebook. And another thing they were doing was just with all this foreign money, they would go to the hood. And all of the, I don't know if you guys heard this story, but in New York and in Chicago, they would fund martial arts schools and say, hey, we want you to say 300 kids and just train them in martial arts. That was to try to make them more hostile to police. So just in case this happens, they can fight back. So when Viva makes this argument that won't you think political operatives will do that, I'm just saying, based on past experiences, seeing the things that they did do, I can easily see somebody using this. And I think it's harder to filter out because those fake accounts and those fake groups, people still believe that people will still believe those groups were legitimate. And I think that's the problem, is that when you have that blue check mark, just like even here on Facebook, not Facebook, on YouTube, when you got that check mark and I put something in somebody's chat, it's automatically noticeable and it gives you that legitimacy.
Okay, but and again, I'll push back. You don't have to necessarily pay the money to get the influence. Read, trust me, I'm lying. That's your perfect formula to run a scam operation. See Covington Kids. That entire thing came out of a Twitter account in Brazil that was pushed all the way up. Did that involve anybody paying any money to get a blue check mark? No. All you have to do is get in front of the blue check mark. So there's 1,000 ways that you can manipulate and they can manipulate. And I would argue it's actually harder to just get a budget and try to brute force everything, because then you will notice it. It's going to be noticeable in the market. You're going to say, oh, look at your blue check mark and every tweet you put out. One, do you have the followers? Who are you following? How many retweets are you actually getting? Now with the bot army, you might be able to increase it some, but that's noticeable. The same algorithm that can filter out your problematic speech could very easily pick up on that because it's already in the system.
That's I think you're looking at it as just playing the short game, right? Make an account, try to get a whole bunch of followers doing it, versus playing the long game. There are fake accounts that have been out there for 5-6 years that are made for this purpose. Let's start small, let's grow. They're not stupid when they say we're going to make these, and a lot of these accounts are already out there just waiting for the opportunity to get check mark. Accounts that have been out there for 5, 10, 15 years. You'd be like, oh my God, this person's from 2010. So if yes, in your scenario where somebody today makes an account and wants to get a blue check mark, yes, easy. But somebody who's had an account for 5-6 years, somebody who's already active, the bots that are already active out there, those are going to be harder to find. And they're hard to find now. That's why we have such a problem with our misinformation.
And Ramble Gamble's right too. The fact that they're sold will lose a lot of prestige as well. and then the blue check mark's not going to have as much meaning.
That's
Right?
true.
Well, that's probably the only thing we agree with. Okay, fine. Give everyone a blue check.
I guess. Well, actually, you know what? They should. They should
Yes.
give everybody, because it's supposed to be about verification of your identity. That's what they said. The way they play it is a complete lie, but it's supposed to say, David, if you put a post out, you are really you putting that post out. It's verified.
It's
They
true.
lie about what they're doing.
It has come to be a symbol of, golden
Status.
idolatry.
It's a status symbol.
Yeah.
So if they agree, then if it's just a question of verifying, show the ID, and then you're verified to Twitter, fine. I suspect a lot of people wouldn't do it if it involves showing a real ID. Then they're just going to come up with like a star for celebrities or whatever.
I'm okay with that, by the way. I would be perfectly fine with that. I just don't, it's like, don't play these games like Milo Yiannopoulos. He had a blue check mark, right? And supposedly it's verification. Oh, right. So why did they take it away? James O'Keefe, I think his was yanked. And anybody, it's like, well, these are known public figures, and they very clearly.
But Eric, you're highlighting the reason they deliberately take that blue check mark away, ostensibly for a sanction, but also it makes it very hard for that account to make sure that no one's posting fake tweets in their name without the blue check mark. So I think they do it for a very malicious secondary reason, which is
which means that it's a lie, which is my point, that their whole program is a lie and it's a status symbol.
Yeah. Well, then give it. Oh, Joe looks thoroughly engaged with. Hold on. How do we make him the centerpiece here, Eric? Like this?
I don't know.
Hold on. There. I don't know what I just did. I can't.
You got to do that.
Oh, there we go. Oh, hey, Joe. How you doing?
Joe's muted though. He's muted.
Joe,
I'm down in Orlando on vacation.
I was just
for
your
like-
backdrop.
Oh, he can't eat.
Oh, right,
Are you in the
yeah.
starvation time?
We actually start like half a day before Passover. And so technically now I can't eat. This is actually this afternoon is actually the worst time, because I'm not even allowed to eat matzah before Passover starts. Like all I can eat now would be potatoes. As it happens, I'm under the weather also.
Good.
This will be the fattest Joe is for the next week.
I don't know. Eric, I don't know if I put. Okay, you did that. I was actually going to say your backdrop looks.
It looks like yours. I look like I'm in your house.
No, first of all, I like yours better than mine. I don't like this backdrop, but it's what I have to deal with for the time being. But no, yours looks actually more welcoming than the dark flag in the back and the spotlight coming from underneath. But you might want to.
You talking about the hostage video?
Yeah.
Joe's talking like the Taliban on his video with the flag. You American dogs, you will burn.
Mike in the chat asked, he said, don't y'all have the verified checks on YouTube? Isn't that similar to Twitter? Yes and no. Getting a verified check on YouTube is basically you get to 100,000 subscribers and you can get one. There are some circumstances where you can get them prior to 100,000 subscribers. It is possible if there's a necessity to make sure that you're not being copied or something like that. But it's different than the Twitter blue check mark. As Viva, being the only one of us graced with the blessings of Twitter, knows there is a special DM tab for blue check marks for other blue check marks. And
I didn't know that. I did not know that, Nick.
You didn't know that?
Shut the fudge up.
You can also, Viva, you can DM anybody on Twitter.
I'm totally going to go DM Kathy Griffin and Brian Stelter right now.
I gotta.
Yes, a verified user, from what I understand, can literally DM anybody on Twitter. So even if we're not following you, can DM us.
How do I
try to get verified?
I would have gotten myself blue check marked. I never.
It should be
wanted
in
to. I thought it
your
was kind of gay.
in your DM tab there on Twitter, where you have like you should have the messages and then the message requests, and then you should have an extra section in there somewhere for.
I'll check them. All I know is
this is why journalists, I think, in theory, have it, is because a journalist needs to be able to talk to different sources or to question people or whatever. I would think that'd be the logic.
It's why it's so hard to contact like big blue check mark accounts when you don't have one, because you just go to the general spam and they get used to not checking that. They check, the messages that they know, and then the messages from other verified Twitter accounts.
Well, I'm not going to abuse it. All that I know is I went to Brian Stelter as an example, and it says you can no longer send direct messages to this person.
Well, when they block you, I imagine so, there, buddy. And you tried. What? It took you a year to get blocked by him.
I DM'd him a few times. I'm just actually looking back at some of the private messages I sent him. Let me see what they said.
Well,
Stop bugging me. Go away.
I said I invited him on the channel. I said, would you come on? It's funny. The last message I sent you was from November 2020. Come on my channel. We can discuss. I would even disable comments if the comment section would make you uncomfortable. I'm not sure I would do. And then I had other comments, which I won't share. Okay. So, Joe, you're in Orlando. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm here. I'm going on strike against Disneyland. I'm leading protests against Disneyland.
I don't know if
you're just gonna go like to Universal then.
Actually, the family has set up all these different like water park activities and things like that, and laser tag, and
there's a lot of
you can't eat.
Water.
yeah, basically. Well, first of all, a lot of people what you don't realize is you're saying can't eat. I can't eat like all the food I normally would eat, but there's a whole Passover menu, which is actually pretty fattening. The matzah that we eat.
I was gonna tell you to go to like the funniest ramen place in Orlando. It's called Super Saiyan, and it's a Dragon Ball Z themed. And you can buy this comically oversized bowl of ramen. They call it 5 servings, but it's like it's infinite food. It's the dumbest. You have to eat it with a ladle.
This is about me. I don't want to make this about me. I want it. Jack Jackerson, just like Viva on YouTube, only checks super chats. It's called. There is nothing further from the truth about me only checking super chats. I don't know if these are intended to be jokes, if it's like intended to be funny, or just you want some attention. Nothing further from the truth than me only checking.
They're picking on you. They're picking on you.
You know what?
Guys, don't be fooled. Viva DMs me after every show that he does. Every single one, he DMs me a list of super chats, and he says, these are the only chats I read during the entire show.
Oh,
he does it. I have the proof.
He's like, why? He's like, why do you waste your time, Nick, talking to those peons who don't want to pay for the privilege of you reading their work?
I have as much proof of that as Amber Heard has of Johnny Depp beating her.
Okay, Kurt, you're
Hi,
back.
welcome. Yes, work called, so I had to bail out for a second.
Work.
You know how it goes.
Oh, you actually have a job as well. That's what
Yeah, I know. That's my problem during the week. It's like,
yeah. So sometimes the job calls.
Great. So, what were we on? We were talking about you're getting verified on Twitter, Kurt. What are your thoughts?
Ooh. Well, I don't know how that's going to happen. I doubt they're going to verify anyone anytime soon. The fact that I was recently hacked on Twitter, that was good. So yeah,
you were hacked there too.
My Twitter account was taken over too. That was nice.
Kurt,
You've got somebody annoyed with you.
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. I irritate somebody somewhere apparently.
Well, also you got to stop clicking on the links. It's nobody's sending money via wire transfer from foreign countries.
And those girls don't really want to date you.
I'm still waiting on that Nigerian prince, man. He's still
trying to happen.
The Twitter verification, I'm convinced it's more related to Google whether or not a name is coming up at a given point in time, which is why some people who make it into the news who have never been on social media get verified like overnight. And I forget the name of the person where everyone said that this was a setup, but they rely a lot on Google searches or Google Trends for determining blue check marks.
Well, they did not rely on anything for me in Rittenhouse. Yeah, because I tried. I even applied. I filled all the requirements. I met the requirements. I sent them the articles that listed me and everything, and no dice. They did not move on that.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah, because I did the same thing. I sent them some articles that I was into, and then they were like, "That's not enough." I'm like, "What?"
Well, David did hit 100K on Twitter and was doing the convoys at the same time and getting a hit piece from CNBC. So kind of rolled in together. Oh, and he has a Wikipedia article, which, by the way, is very big towards verification.
Yeah, the Wikipedia article is big. It's one of the alternate requirements. They have several different criteria, and yeah. I hate them. I hope they catch on fire. I hope Elon Musk buys it and then it burns to the ground.
That would be funny. That would be hilarious. Now, he is taking it private so he can do whatever the hell he wants if he gets it.
Bless you.
Thank
Joe.
you.
Yeah,
I saw the
that's
worst
been
quote
nice
here.
watching some of the left, realize that, because they've been saying, it's a private company, they can do whatever they want, which of course is the right answer. And now that Elon might want to take it private and do whatever they want, they're freaking the hell out. So it's kind of fun to watch.
Did Joe just get arrested? Because in Canada, if you sneeze, you actually get arrested right away.
What is it you call it? A gentler dictatorship, or what?
The polite dictatorship.
Polite dictatorship.
Oh, Trudeau just tweeted out. It's like he's such a. This is going to be my opening rant in 20 minutes. He's such a nitwit. He's tweeting out about Passover. Well, wishing everyone a happy Passover. First of all, leave me alone. Leave me alone, and don't use other people's identities for your virtue tweets. He doesn't understand that Passover was about a people's escape from slavery and government tyranny. And he is the tyrant. He is the, Joe, what is it, Achashverosh? He is the Achashverosh.
No.
Okay.
No.
Rant over.
Achashverosh.
No.
Achashverosh was the king in Persia during the time of Esther, about 1,000 years after Exodus. It was Pharaoh. It was Pharaoh that we escaped from during Passover.
Okay.
But
I agree with Nudge. America's Untold Stories is criminally undersubscribed, as well as this channel.
yeah.
Please subscribe while you're here, folks.
Viva, you come down here. I'll show you a real Seder. You come down here. I'll show you a real.
I would be the contrarian son, Joe, to the point where I would not be fun to have at the table.
I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about that.
Well, folks, I know David's got to cut out. I think everybody else has something going.
I feel sick as anything.
Joe's sucking our energy right down to the toilet. So.
Thank you. Normally, I'm the only thing that makes this show remotely interesting. I feel guilty for not upholding that tonight. So,
we have certain expectations. Okay, vivabarneslaw.locals.com, uncivillaw.locals.com. Anything else to plug on that? Your Twitter? Well, it's still there.
Yeah. No, that's about it.
NateTheLawyer.locals.com. Good Logic, locals.com or something or another. RekietaLaw.locals.com.
Also follow me on Twitch. Twitch.tv/Rekieta That's where you can see me lose all over and over and over at Elden Ring for hours, just over and over, just slowly being defeated. If you want to ever see me beaten down by the world, just watch me play Elden Ring.
Perfect. And I'm at unstructured.locals.com. I have a show later on. So if you're still waiting to watch after David at 5:30, America's Untold Stories. Anybody who's interested in the Kennedy assassination and Ruth Payne and her involvement with Lee Harvey Oswald, you may want to check that out. Joe, now what are you doing, Joe, again? I'm confused.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on.
Wow.